The story begins with an introduction to the Crain family, parents Hugh and Olivia, and their 5 children, Stephen, Shirley, Theodora, and twins Nellie and Luke. Hugh has purchased a property named Hill House in the hopes of refurbishing it, then selling it for a huge profit. The first scene opens late at night inside the house, with young Nell Crain crying. Her brother Stephen gets up to check on her. When he asks what is wrong, Nell says that she saw the bent neck lady again. By then, their father has shown up and gently calms her down, telling her that it was only a bad dream. However, as Nell sleeps after her father has calmed her down, a creepy female figure moves in the background. The series then jumps back and forth between the family's time living at Hill House and the children as adults, still dealing with the emotional damage that was done during those days. It is revealed that as children, Luke had an imaginary friend named Abigail, while Nell had apparently seen the bent neck lady more than once. Furthermore, Shirley and Nellie desperately wanted to find the key that opened the mysterious red door belonging to a locked room upstairs. One day, the 2 girls try to open the red door with a skeleton key provided by Mr. Dudley, the caretaker. However, their attempts are futile, and as they walk away from the door, a pair of shadowy feet under the door can be seen. In the present day, Stephen writes best-selling books about true ghost stories even though he professes to have never seen one himself. His most famous book is The Haunting of Hill House, about his family's own experiences. However, his siblings are not happy that he wrote it. In the meantime, he is interviewing a woman named Irene Walker who tells her own story involving her husband. His car flipped over in a bad storm, and he hung upside down until he died, periodically honking the horn with his badly broken arm. Irene tells Stephen that almost immediately after her husband's death, she started seeing his ghost hanging over her bed. She reveals that her visions are accompanied by dripping water and the sound of a car horn honking, and she no longer sleeps in her bedroom. Intrigued, Stephen asks if he can spend the night in the room. During Stephen's conversation with the woman, his phone rings and he looks at it to see that Nell is calling, but he doesn't answer the call. On the other hand, the adult Shirley owns a funeral home with her husband. Currently, she is counseling a family whose young son refuses to view his grandmother's body during an open casket funeral. Nell tries to call Shirley, but Shirley does not take the call either. She calls Stephen to tell him about Nell's missed call, and says she tried to call Luke but couldn't find him. Stephen says that Luke is probably in rehab again, and when he later tries to call Nell back, she doesn't hear her phone ring. Elsewhere, adult Theo is in a bar wearing unusually long gloves for the weather. There, she picks up a young woman and brings her home. However, after they have intercourse, she rather abruptly dismisses the woman and again dons the gloves, stating that she is a germaphobe. The scene then cuts to older Hugh, who now lives in Jacksonville. Currently, he wakes up from a nightmare thanks to his phone ringing. On the other side of the phone is Nell, who asks if he remembers the bent neck lady. When he says yes, she responds that the lady is back. Worried by this news, Hugh asks Nell where she is at the moment. Although she is in her car, Nell lies to her father that she is home. He quickly replies that he will be there tomorrow. But when she hangs up, it is revealed that Nell is actually right outside the Hill House. She then gets out of her car and walks towards the house. Then, a flashback in time shows a visibly shaken Hugh waking Stephen up in the dead of night. His hand is bandaged and he tells Stephen that they need to leave quickly. Hugh then opens the bedroom door quietly to check the hallway and apparently sees something as he closes and locks it. The doorknob turns several times as Hugh and Stephen stay as quiet as possible. When it seems that the unseen person is gone, Hugh tells Stephen that he is going to carry him. He warns Stephen to keep his eyes closed and not open them under any circumstance. As he runs down the hallway, a female figure, the breakneck lady, runs after him. Fortunately, he makes it out to the car, where the other children are already waiting. They are all upset and crying, asking about their mother, but Hugh does not answer them and just drives away. Back in the present day, as Stephen sets up equipment in Irene's bedroom, he gets a call from his father. A panicked Hugh tells him to get to Nell as soon as possible. Stephen impatiently blows Hugh off, telling him that he is working and isn't going to just leave. He then hangs up, lays down on the bed, and his eyes close. Shortly after 3 a.m., each of the Crain siblings, except for Nell, wake up suddenly, gasping and holding their throats. Shirley, always prone to talking in her sleep, mumbles that Nell is in the red room. On the other hand, Stephen wakes up to water dripping on his face from the roof. When he stands on the bed to check out the ceiling, he hears a car horn blaring outside. He looks out the window to see a near accident, and also notices that it is raining. The next morning, he tells the woman that all of her experiences in the room can be explained. There is a ceiling leak, and a recently stolen stop sign from the street outside explains the sound of a horn honking. As far as seeing her husband, Stephen believes that only happened because she wanted to see him again. When she incredulously asks why she would want to see her husband like that, he gently responds that it's better than never seeing him again. A flashback cuts to the day after the Crains escaped the Hill House. A young Stephen is in an attorney's office, where his father is having an argument with a lawyer. It is revealed that Hugh's wife, Olivia, is said to have committed suicide in the Hill House last night, and the press have picked up on this incident. Hugh angrily rants that he will not allow his children to take the witness stand. His attorney tells him that without the children's testimony to back up his own, he could be in serious trouble. Hugh says he doesn't care about the press saying bad things about him but wants them to leave his children out of it. Hugh further states that he will not sell the house and wants no person to go anywhere near it, except for the Dudleys, who have been the caretakers for a very long time. In another flashback from an earlier time, Stephen is sitting in the kitchen talking to Mrs. Dudley. She tells him that no one comes to Hill House at night, in the dark, not even the Dudleys, who live on the very edge of the property. After Olivia interrupts their conversation to ask if he has seen Luke, Stephen goes up into the treehouse, where Luke is drawing some creepy pictures, including one of a woman screaming. Luke asks how to spell "no girls allowed" as Stephen checks out the drawings. They have a discussion about imaginary friends, and Luke insists that his friend, Abigail, is not imaginary. When adult Stephen arrives home, he catches adult Luke attempting to leave with Stephen's iPad and a camera. He tells Luke he will give him $200 and he can sell the camera, but he needs the iPad back. Luke takes the cash and tells him that he is not taking the money for drugs as Stephen might have thought. He leaves, and when Stephen walks into his apartment, he finds Nell standing inside. He berates her for allowing Luke to take his things while she just stood there and watched. However, Nell only looks at him silently, with fear on her face. Suddenly, Stephen gets a phone call from Hugh and turns his back to Nell so that he can pick up the call. To his horror, Hugh tells him that Nell went back to Hill House last night and committed suicide. As Stephen turns around to Nell, horrified, her face turns gray, and she screams silently, then disappears. The scene then shifts as Shirley abruptly awakes, hand to her throat, and mutters, "Nell's in the red room." Later, she is talking to Alex, the boy who does not want to see his grandmother in her open casket. He claims that his grandma came to sit on his bed, and she didn't have any hair or teeth. Shirley tells him that she is going to fix up his grandmother so she looks as she did in life, and seeing her that way might help him remember her in a better way. This is followed by a flashback where a young Shirley is with her mother. Olivia is sketching the Crain family's dream house that she calls the Forever House. She tells Shirley that when Hill House is finished and sold, they can build their forever house. After a while, Shirley asks to go outside to play with Nell. Olivia tells them they can go outside, but they must be sure to come back home when she flashes the front porch light. While outside, Shirley takes photos of Theo and Luke. As she walks away, Luke sees a girl standing in the distance, which might have been the first time he saw Abigail. In the meantime, while photographing headstones, Shirley hears what turns out to be baby kittens in a small building on the property. She takes a photo, and a scary face shows up in the background. When Hugh and Mr. Dudley hear her scream, they come in and find out that the face is a wasp's nest built onto a Halloween mask. Shirley then begs Hugh to let her keep the kittens, as they won't be safe from the dogs. Mr. Dudley reiterates that there are no dogs around, even though the Crain children hear them at night. In the present day, adult Shirley's son is upset with her because she gave him a blank mask instead of the daredevil mask he wanted. While the two are talking, it can be seen that Shirley has a model of a forever house, just as her mother did. She and her husband Kevin have a discussion about their finances. He tells her that she is not charging enough to their clients, and they are barely getting by. Elsewhere, Stephen has tracked Luke down and tells Shirley that he is in rehab again. She thinks back to another time they paid to put Luke in rehab. It cost them $6,000 per month. In the meantime, Shirley finds a checkbook in only her husband, Kevin's name, and she later tells Theo about her discovery. The scene shifts to a flashback to the Hill House, where Shirley is caring for the kittens, allowing Luke and Nell to help feed them. That night, Theo storms into Shirley's room, angrily asking why she is banging on the wall and calling her name. However, Shirley denies the accusations, pointing out that she was asleep. As they argue, very loud banging begins, and they scream. Soon afterwards, Hugh arrives to check what the commotion is about. Surprisingly, he says he did not hear the banging, but guesses the sound may have been caused due to the old tea water pipes in the house. In the present, adult Shirley awakes to a phone call from Stephen, who tells her that Nell has died. As Shirley walks towards the guest house where Theo lives, the lights come on, as if Theo already knew what was up. Back in the flashback, young Shirley gets up one morning to find one of her kittens dead. Olivia finds a special box for her to bury the kitten in, and they ask her if she wants to say something nice about the kitten before it is buried. Olivia says everyone becomes a story when they die, and people will tell those stories, ensuring that a part of us remains when we die. Shirley suddenly exclaims that the kitten is alive. She sees its mouth moving. The kitten's mouth is indeed moving, but then a bug crawls out of its mouth. In the present, adult Shirley has decided to take care of Nell's body and funeral arrangements. She and Theo argue about allowing enough time for Luke to get there for the funeral. Luke has apparently snuck out of rehab, and Shirley retorts that he missed Nell's wedding, so he probably won't make it to her funeral either. In the meantime, it is time for Alex's grandmother, and he is still refusing to see her in her casket. Shirley tells him that he will later regret it if he doesn't view her now, and offers to walk up with him. In a flashback to Olivia's funeral service, Shirley did not want to see her mother in the casket. The funeral director offers to walk up with her, just as she will later do with Alex, and she agrees. It seems this may be what inspired Shirley's current career, as she comments that the funeral director fixed Olivia. In the present day, Nell is delivered to the funeral home, and Shirley begins to somewhat graphically prepare her body. As she does this, she is talking to Stephen on the phone, and insisting that he come as soon as possible and get Luke and Hugh there as well. Back at Hill House in the past, Shirley and Nell prepare to feed the kittens and find that they are all dead except for one. It opens its eyes, which are terrifyingly large and white, and Shirley screams. Later, Olivia tells her that kittens shouldn't be without their mommy, and that the only remaining kitten was taken to a new home. Shirley yells at her, and Olivia begins to yell back, crying as she has a headache. When Hugh talks to Olivia about her headache, which he refers to as a color storm, Olivia says there was no color this time, just darkness. It is then revealed that they killed the only remaining kitten, believing it to be diseased. In the present day, when adult Shirley's children try to sneak into the embalming room, Shirley stops them. She tells them that she has to fix up Aunt Nell, and they should each pick out a favorite picture to display at the funeral. The kids leave, and Shirley refers to a wedding picture of Nell as she solemnly applies makeup to her corpse. A quick flashback shifts the scene to the day of Nell's wedding. While Shirley applied Nell's makeup, she saw Luke arriving outside. Before Nell could see him, Shirley ran outside and told him to leave. She gave him cash, and he dejectedly left. Although Nell has said Luke's absence is the only thing that marred her wedding, Shirley never told her that he actually showed up, which probably caused her a fair amount of guilt. When the flashback ends, Shirley is preparing Nell's body. To her horror, a bug crawls out of her mouth, which is even more gross than when the same bug crawled out of the kitten's mouth. This sight causes Shirley to break down. After she calms down, she turns off the light, and then sees another body in the room. It's Olivia, who sits up and holds a box out to Shirley, the same box she gave her for the dead kitten. When Shirley turns on the light, Olivia is gone. When she goes back to her office, she puts the photo of Nell in a folder and turns off the light. As she leaves the office, the porch light on her model Forever house flashes off and on, which harkens back to Hill House, when Olivia told the children it would be time to come home when she flashed the porch light. In a flashback at the Hill House, young Theo is sleeping in her bed. She feels someone climb into bed with her, and a small arm reaches around to clutch her hand. She thinks Nell has had another nightmare, and asks her not to hold her hand so tightly. When she turns over to face her, there is no one there, and she sits bolt upright. From this point onwards, Theo will be able to feel emotions from people, objects, or places by touching them. In the present, an adult Theo is talking to a little girl named Kelsey in her office. Kelsey tells her about Mr. Smiley and indicates that he lives in the basement. Afterwards, she talks to Kelsey's foster parents, who have no idea why Kelsey is having difficulties, nor who Mr. Smiley may be. Back in Hill House, Hugh and Theo are going through some of the odds and ends that the prior owners left behind. Hugh says most of it is junk, but she should keep her eyes open for fancy items that may be worth money. He hands her a wooden box to throw away, and as Theo touches it, she stops and tells Hugh that it's fancy. When Hugh opens the box, he finds a bottle of expensive wine. Later, she walks in on Olivia talking to Mrs. Dudley about a cold spot in the room. When asked to verify the cold spot, Theo, who is wearing a sweater even though it is summer, responds that this whole house is cold. Later that afternoon, Theo finds Nell and Luke upstairs in one of the bedrooms. Luke complains about the smell, but Theo responds that the whole house smells. She touches a pillow and states that this was a sick bed. Back in the present, adult Theo is in her office again, talking to another young child. She introduces herself and shakes the child's hand. Despite the fact that Theo usually wears gloves, she is pointedly not wearing them for this meeting. After shaking hands, she immediately starts taking notes. Later, she opens a file cabinet drawer and finds a copy of Stephen's book The Haunting of Hill House. She thinks back to Stephen telling his siblings about the book and offering them each 8% of the royalties. Shirley in particular was indignant, and all of the siblings refused. However, Theo took the offer and used the money to get her PhD in psychology. In a flashback, young Luke is playing with the dumbwaiter in the Hill House kitchen, and Mrs. Dudley is scolding him, holding onto his arm. Theo walks in and tells Mrs. Dudley to let go of his arm. She apologizes and tells the children to go away. Luke replies that she doesn't have to be so mean. As Mrs. Dudley puts her hand on Theo's shoulder, Theo reveals that she's not mean but simply scared. Young Theo goes into the kitchen late at night to find Luke sitting in the dumbwaiter, trying to hide. Theo tells him the Dudleys never come to the house after dark, and Luke asks her to help him take a ride in the dumbwaiter, referring to it as the perfect kid-size elevator. He can't do it himself because the buttons are on the outside, and one has to close the door for it to work. She hesitates, but he talks her into it. The dumbwaiter starts descending, and Luke begins to panic. He screams that he wanted it to go up and not down. Although Theo tries to push the up button, the dumbwaiter continues moving down until it stops in a basement no one knew about. He tells her he sees a ladder so she can come get him. He shines his flashlight around and sees a ghastly figure crawling towards him, and he starts screaming. Olivia and Hugh run into the kitchen, where Theo is crying and trying desperately to bring the dumbwaiter back up. Hugh manages to bring it up, and they embrace the hysterically crying Luke. He tells them there was a monster, and Hugh notices that his pajama top is torn. Olivia sternly sends Theo to her room, where she lays crying. The scene then shifts to Nell's wedding 2 years ago. It's time for the toast, but the maid of honor and a couple of groomsmen are missing, so Stephen and Nell go off to search. They hear sounds of passion coming from an upstairs bedroom and knock on the door. The missing maid of honor comes out, and Nell and Stephen hang around to see who the lucky guy is. To their surprise, it's Theo, who they did not know was gay. Neither of them seems bothered, however, and Nell embraces her sister. Back in the past at the Hill House, young Theo walks into Luke's room, where he is on the floor drawing a picture of his friend Abigail. Theo apologizes, and Luke sadly laments that his parents don't believe him. They think Abigail is not real, and the basement is not real, because it's not in the blueprints for the house. Theo touches his hand and tells him she believes him. With Luke's help, she figures out where the ladder he saw would be, and she finds a trapdoor leading to it. She goes down into the basement and finds the torn scrap of cloth from Luke's pajama top. There she also sees a door and opens it. Adult Theo knocks on the door to Kelsey's foster parents' house and asks them if she can see Kelsey. They look at her as if she is crazy, as Kelsey is in school. She asks to see their basement, and they leave her there. Theo walks slowly around the basement, takes off her gloves, and starts to touch things. Eventually she comes to a couch, touches it, sits on it, then lies on her back. The markings on the wood ceiling about the couch look somewhat like eyes and a smiling face. Theo feels something horrible and has to hold back a scream. Thanks to her ability to know stuff by simply touching things, she realizes that Kelsey's foster father had been abusing her. Following this, Theo makes a phone call from her car, reporting that Kelsey's foster father is the smiley man she has been so afraid of. She watches the police come to the door, then witnesses them talking him away. The scene once again shifts to young Theo and her mother. A few days ago, when Theo had touched her mother, she had a horrible vision. Half of Olivia's face was bloodied and disfigured, as if she had been shot in the head. Currently, Olivia asks about how Theo comes to know about things like the bottle of wine, the location of the basement, and the ledger. Theo says she just guessed, but Olivia tells her that this heightened sense of sensitivity runs in their family. Olivia has had headaches since she was a child. Shirley talks in her sleep, and when Nell was asked what she thought of Hill House, she said it was loud. Olivia then gives her some gloves and says that they will help Theo with the cold and the other things. In the present day, Theo walks into the embalming room and looks at Nell's body. Taking a deep breath, she removes her gloves and places her hand on the body. Whatever she sees and feels, it's not good. It causes her to fall to the ground, screaming and crying. Later, to recover from the horrifying experience, she sits on the porch, drinking liquor from a bottle. Theo lives in the farmhouse that falls on Shirley's property. Soon afterwards, Shirley's husband, Kevin, walks out and asks Theo if everything is alright. Ignoring the question, she tells him that Shirley found the checkbook that had only his name on it. From their conversation, it is clear that both of them are hiding something from Shirley. Although Theo promises not to tell Shirley the truth, she urges Kevin to come up with a good excuse for the checkbook. The final scene shifts back to the Hill House on the day when the Crains were running away. Theo runs downstairs where Hugh is waiting with Nell and Luke. Her father tells her to take the twins and run to the car downstairs. However, when he touches her arm, she has visions of what he had seen and done. A little girl on the staircase, a woman's ghostly face, skeletal remains of a former resident who bricked himself in, the door to the red room, and her father violently pushing her mother against the wall. Coupled with the vision she'd had of her mother's smashed up face, it would be easy for Theo to assume her father killed their mother. She pulls away from Hugh, screaming, "Let go. Don't touch me. Don't touch me." Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.